I had 5.5 hours of back surgery when I broke a vertebra in my back. And I woke up in a striker frame circle bed, which looks like a hula hoop or two hula hoops together, and there's a stretcher suspended in it. And I couldn't move. The bed moved me. And 2 days after surgery, I started to die, and they were doing all kinds of things to save me. And I lost consciousness. The whole thing was just so frightening. And the next thing I knew, I woke up out in the hallway, and I looked up and down the hall, and I thought, if they catch me out here, I'm going to get into trouble. I'm supposed to be suspended in that bed. So I turned around and came back into the room and looked down into the circle bed and saw my body. And that didn't bother me at all. I felt totally peaceful. It didn't bother me at all until I started drifting away from my body and moving through something that later, as a researcher, I could call a tunnel. At the time, I had no explanation for any of this because I was an atheist. And I didn't believe you could exist beyond your body. But I was moving through something that turned out to be the shape of a tunnel. And the next thing I knew, my grandmother was there. Now, she had been dead for 14 years. And I had never once believed that anybody existed beyond their death. And my grandmother just put her arms around me like she did when I was a child and pulled me into her chest. And the next thing I knew, we were re-experiencing all 19 years we were on the planet together. She died when I was 19. And I wasn't just experiencing these memories through my eyes or my heart. I could feel her too. I experienced everything she experienced, and I have a feeling that she experienced everything I did about the love we shared for each other. And I started moving away from her, but she told me, not with her mouth, but heart to heart, that she would always be there waiting for me. And then I was back. And it happened again a week later while suspended in the bed. This time I was awake when I separated from my body. I was crying hard. I was laying on my tummy, and I looked down and I saw her. It sure wasn't me. I was up near the ceiling. I looked down and I saw her crying in a bubble. And then I looked out into the space and I saw myself at about a year old crying just as hard in a bubble. And after looking back and forth about 3 times, I decided to go to the baby, that I didn't want to be her anymore. And as soon as I did that, it was like I let go of this lifetime. I felt this energy just wrap itself around me and move into me and become me. And just like with my grandmother, this energy let me see through its heart and through its eyes. And now I can call it God. At the time, going from atheism to having this experience, I couldn't use a word, but now I know that was God comforting me. And together we moved to the baby. And that baby was in a cloud that contained thousands of clouds, and thousands of bubbles. And in each bubble was another event from my life. So we had the experience together of bobbing through the bubbles. And at the same time, there was a linear sequence of the 32 years I had been here in this lifetime. And I kept hearing myself say, no wonder, no wonder. And that meant, no wonder you are the way you are. Look at the abuse you had as a child. And when I would think that, this energy would hold me tighter. And looking at it now, it was such a powerful experience that if that energy wasn't holding me, I don't think I could have survived. I think I just would have exploded. And together, what we re-experienced too was that my mother, who was the one that was very crazy and tormenting me, abusing me, I could feel and see and hear somehow all the abuse that she had had as a child. Well, I'm not sure. It was something obviously between me and my mother. And the only way I see any meaning out of it now is that I've become a psychotherapist and I work with people that were traumatized, abused, and neglected as children. And I understand their path because I've walked in the same shoes. So for me, the curse has become the gift because I'm using my experiences and my healing to help other people heal. So there was like instant forgiveness because there was instant understanding. And then I was back here in this reality. And it's taken me 37 years to figure out and to integrate all of this wonderful stuff that happened to me in that experience. Well, before the experience, what I had done is become very bitter and dried up because of the abuse. And I wasn't living authentically. I was living from a false self or an inflated ego. And my God was materialism. So, I mean, we had the perfect house and the perfect cars. We had an airplane, a swimming pool, you name it. We had all the materialism you could ask for, 3 beautiful children, but it was hollow. And after the experience, except for my relationship with my children and my husband at the time, those mattered. But the materialism wasn't important anymore. I went back to school and I became a respiratory therapist, and I worked in ICU, and my patients were telling me about their experiences. This became the real, authentic me working in the world. My family, especially my husband, did not want to see me change. They wanted me to be the way I was before, and I couldn't be the way I was before. My husband, when we finally divorced 9 years later, kept telling me that it was my fault and that if I would go back to being the way I was before, we could stay married. But my interpretation of that was that I had to contract back down to this little person that I was before, that was just there for him and not there for myself. And that would have meant going back on Valium to suppress myself. I wasn't willing to do it. It was this very loving energy that had intelligence that we just can't even begin to understand, trapped in our brain, with the brain that we have. It was such intelligence that understood everything. And at the same time, no matter what I had done wrong, and there were things I had done wrong in my life, that energy, that intelligence just accepted me the way I am, just loved me the way I am, and let me know that the world, that the universe is so much bigger than we can comprehend. And if I would keep at it, if I would keep growing and learning, that there's joy, and even more important than the joy, God let me know there's peace, because I had never had any peace. It was eternity. Here we are by the clock and the calendar every day, living in a linear fashion in the left hemisphere of our brain. Where I went, which is here too, but we don't realize it because we haven't expanded into it yet, is an eternity where it's forever. There is no linear time. There is no clock ticking. There is no calendar. There is this moment. There is the now. So I came in contact with the now. And when you're in the now, God is everywhere. And when I came back knowing that I was going to find out how to be this way here in this reality, and then be here now, knowing this eternity, so that when I die, my body may die, but this part of me that experienced God will go on and on and on. We feel guilty when we come back, because once we were over there, we really didn't want to come back. So when we do come back, we feel bad because here's all these people that love us, and we were willing to stay there and not come back. So there's really a conflict when we come back. And the other thing is, why are we back? We weren't given a choice. And even if we were given a choice, a lot of us chose to stay, and yet we were still sent back. That first part of my experience where I told you I went into the tunnel, I could see this energy churning in darkness, and out of the darkness was coming light. And the light was moving down ahead of me and forming what people call the light. And for me, that churning energy that was separating light from the darkness was the Holy Spirit. So here was Spirit bringing the light out of the darkness. And every time, now I'm getting into the metaphor, every time we find light in darkness, we find truth, we find love in dark places like our shadow. That's God in action. So God is light.